Top 5 favorite baits for largemouth fishing. I'm going to be showing you these baits in order from 5 to 1. I'm going to be explaining why I like these baits and what applications you can use them for. But before we get into a video, here's a word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Pulse Lures. They make high-quality baits right here in the United States. Plus, they have a huge variety of baits, including spinner baits, the Pro Series swim jig, and the good old Pulse jig. These baits have a proprietary design that gives them a beautiful yet subtle action, and it can help you land huge fish. Definitely check them out at pulselures.com.
Alright guys, thanks for listening to that, and definitely give them a check. Anyway, let's get on to the list. Starting in the number 5 spot, I'm going to have a crankbait. This one here is a deeper diving crankbait, but that's really not specifically what I'm talking about here. Any crankbait in general are just really fun to fish for largemouth. They love these types of baits. You can fish them fast, you can fish them slow, you can do a varied retrieve. They're really versatile baits. They can go deep, they can go shallow, they can go in the middle. This one here has a very reflective paint job, as you can see it, with a yellow underbelly and a really big bill. This is like a 10XD crankbait or something like that. Moving on to the number 4 spot, we have a chatterbait. Now this is going to be on a lot of people's list. Everyone loves chatterbaits. They're really making waves in the industry right now. But I mean, you really do have to give them a look if you're really on the fence about it, because these baits are great. They have this, they're really called a vibrating jig, but everyone calls them a chatterbait. That's basically just a normal jig head with a blade attached to it, and what this blade does is when you start to reel it, it catches the water and it vibrates back and forth, causing a lot of noise and sometimes flashing in the water, and it can really get a lot of fish to come over there and check it out because it's very attention grabbing, especially when you have fish, in grass and you drag this over the grass. It grabs their attention and they come out and check it out, and sometimes you can cause a reaction strike on that. Now in the number 3 spot, and this might be the most fun bait to use in this whole list, and that is going to be a topwater frog. Nothing is more fun than pitching your frog over a lily pad, popping it, boom, massive blow up, and you smoke that fish right out of there. Nothing's more fun than getting a huge blow up on a topwater frog, and they do produce big fish. And in the number 2 spot, we have a jig. Now this one specifically is a Pulse jig. You already heard from them this episode, so I won't go on too long. And this has a skirt that I bought and put on there. Now jigs are really good. They produce bigger fish on average because of the style of fishing you're doing with them. Now this jig can be used as a finesse jig or a swim jig. It's very versatile. So basically a finesse jig, you're just going to be bouncing it off the bottom like this. If you pretend my hand's the bottom, you just bounce it a couple inches every time. Sometimes you want to go faster or slower depending on how the fish are biting that day. And then a swim jig, you basically just fish it like a swim bait. You cast it out there, maybe you let it sink a little bit, and then you just give a nice steady retrieve in, or sometimes you throw in a varied retrieve to get the bite going. It all depends on how fish are hitting that day, and that's up to your discretion there. And last but not least, and probably out of surprise to no one, we have a Senko, be it Texas rig or wacky rig. Senkos just produce fish at a very high rate. They're a very high percentage bait. They're easy to hook up on, they're easy to rig, and they're relatively inexpensive compared to a lot of other baits out there. Now, I usually throw a Senko on a spinning rod, but you can throw them on a spinning rod, a bait caster, hell, a friggin' Zebco rod from Walmart will do with these things. Basically, you just hook them up with whatever hook style you're using, cast it out there, you let it sink, and fish just bite it. It really is that simple.